Blue Origin has been cleared to launch the New Glenn rocket again. The Ferrari Luce has been unveiled. And chicks have been hatched from artificial eggshells. It's Tuesday, May 26th. And here's a quick look at some of the news happening in and around tech this morning from Engadget. Blue Origin can now make more concrete plans for New Glenn's next flight after the Federal Aviation Administration cleared the rocket for launch. If you'll recall, the FAA grounded New Glenn after failing to properly put its payload in orbit during its third mission. The aerospace company announced that the agency approved its report for the flight and accepted the corrective measures it implemented. Back in April, the company successfully reused its first-stage New Glenn booster for the first time for New Glenn's third mission. Everything seemed to be going swimmingly until it was time to put the AST Space Mobile satellite the vehicle was carrying into orbit. Blue Origin announced at the time that the vehicle placed the satellite into an off-nominal orbit. AST Space Mobile revealed later on that its satellite separated from the vehicle, but its altitude was too low to sustain operations with its onboard thruster technology and was deorbited. The FAA grounded New Glenn after the incident, which it called a mishap, and opened an investigation to determine the root cause of the event and identify corrective actions. Shortly after the event, Blue Origin CEO Dave Limp said early data suggested that on the second burn of the rocket's upper stage, one of its engines did not produce sufficient thrust to reach its target orbit. In a statement sent to Space News, the FAA revealed that the final report had identified the direct cause of the mishap as a cryogenic leak that froze a hydraulic line and led to a thrust anomaly during the second stage engine burn. Blue Origin has taken 9 corrective actions since identifying the issue to prevent the incident from happening again. If the wild Jony Ive and Mark Newson designed interior for the Ferrari Luce had you intrigued and wanting more, well, the full car has now been unveiled. After committing to build an EV last year, ignoring those earlier statements that it would never happen, Ferrari has finally given a look at the entire finished product. As big a departure as that interior is from Ferrari's current suite of sports cars, the exterior is an even bigger step, one that not everyone is going to love. Now, whether you love it or hate it, you can likewise attribute Luce's exterior styling to LoveFrom, the design house founded by Jony Ive back in 2019. Though this is LoveFrom's first full car design, it's actually Newson's second, following on the Ford 021C concept from 1999. Now, that vehicle has a very different shape from the Luce, but it does feature doors that open the same way. The Luce is definitely not a traditional sports car, more like an SUV in its size and shape, featuring 4 doors and seating for 5. It may not look or feel like a Ferrari, but it should offer the kind of outrageous performance typical of the brand. It has 1,035 horsepower, which is certainly a lot, but more importantly, it comes from a set of 4 motors. So that means 1 per wheel, a setup that should deliver some impressive dynamics. By adding more power to the outside wheels, the Luce can be made to turn into corners more aggressively. And by modulating power individually, the EV can now precisely handle low-grip situations or even wheel spin on high-grip surfaces, which will surely be an issue since 1,035 horsepower is plenty enough to liquefy even the best of tires. Now, the car also has 4-wheel steering, so it can turn the back wheels with or against the fronts to either add more stability or agility. The Luce features a version of Ferrari's active suspension, which relies on an electrically actuated damper system to not only provide varying degrees of stiffness or softness, but to dynamically adjust ride height, too. Get up to speed on the highway, maximum 193 miles per hour, and it will lower itself by 10 millimeters. Ferrari has not yet set U.S. pricing, but in its home market of Italy, it will carry a starting price of 550,000 euros. That's equivalent to $640,000, so Somewhere in that range would be a good guess once it is available in the States. Colossal Biosciences, the de-extinction biotech company best known for its claims of reviving the dire wolf, announced last week that it has hatched 26 healthy chicks from 3D printed artificial eggshells. According to the company, it's a step toward its goal of bringing back the South Island giant moa, an enormous bird that's been extinct for about 600 years, as well as the dodo. Colossal's artificial eggshell is made up of semi-permeable silicone-based membrane lattice that allows oxygen to pass through while still protecting the inner contents, and a rigid support cup that holds it all together. The embryo is taken from an egg laid in the usual way by a hen. The company explained in a blog post that scientists examine eggs laid by real hens, select viable candidates, and transfer the contents, minus the shell, into the artificial egg structure. For de-extinction applications, the artificial egg is intended as a later-stage incubation vessel. The moa laid eggs roughly 8 times the size of an emu's, so no species alive today could serve as a surrogate for the entire process. Colossal's methods and de-extinction goals have garnered a fair share of critics over the years, many of whom have questioned the purpose of focusing on resurrecting extinct species, while there are plenty of endangered species today that could benefit from this type of intervention. Colossal says its system could be applied to conservation, and just as some scientists argued that Colossal's dire wolves are not true dire wolves, but genetically modified gray wolves, skeptics say the latest announcement should be taken with a grain of salt. Thanks for listening. There's more tech news at Engadget.com. This episode featured journalism from Mariella Moon and Cheyenne McDonald. Enjoy your day, and I'll be back tomorrow morning with more tech news from Engadget.